was just really painful watching the way that the elves, what are that little guy, the 1/2, the guy that makes 2 mana, who I can't remember his name right now.
Gerard Tree Speaker.
Yes, the Tree Speaker, thank you. The Tree Speaker just was really tearing Anthony
So you might
up.
be looking at what we have under Anthony Eason Mono Black Post, and first thing I saw when I said that is, I said, hey, Cloud Post is not legal in this format. Okay. So, what we are talking about...
Trading Posts.
Right.
4 copies of it to go with 4 pristine talismans. And interestingly, what he does not have, a lot of people have been talking about Trading Post as being something that you can use with essentially the Mycosynth and the
Ichor Wellspring.
the Ichor Wellsprings. None of those in here. He's actually just using real cards and getting rid of Extraneous Sphere for the Suns, Tumble Magnet, and then you can buy them back.
And then he has
Trading Post
Coastal
is so many
Golem, Mere
things.
Battle Sphere, Soul and Slack, and Worm Coil Engine. So definitely, he's a artifact-based deck. The thing is, I was most excited about when I saw this post, Trading Post, and I mentioned this earlier, was playing those Wellsprings and actually then trying to run Clock of Omens was something I was which is probably too cute for its own good.
I've seen people talk about Clock, but I think it might be too cute.
Clock's just not a very good card, is the problem.
I mean, 4 Worm Coil, 3 Solemn, 1 Precursor, 1 Mere Battle Sphere. All of these are great Trading Post cards. One of the things I love seeing here, it's so awesome seeing 4 Mutilate once again. It has been a while. Thank you, Anthony Eason, for bringing Mutilate back to the mix. His opponent is Nyapod, Jacob Baugh with Nyapod.
Basically a typical Nyapod deck in the style of the Kibler decks. Only 3 birthing pods. It's still not a huge commitment to pod. There are some interesting choices. He's got a few new one-ofs. He has 2 Thragtusk and 1 Thundermaw Hellkite out of the new set. Curious to me, he only is playing 2 Strangleroot Geist.
And he's playing 0 Green Sun Zenith.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is actually very curious.
Yeah, Jake, so game 1 here, just for the record, you notice Anthony's a little bit all smiles here. Anthony's going down to 4 cards, so we might see a little bit of a rocky game 1 for him. A lot of his spells are pretty expensive. I don't really know how he can act. He may just not be able to... You might not see a game here. He's a good sport about it. Out of Jacob Baugh's sideboard, we also have 1 Sublime Archangel.
This is a card that I think is being criminally underappreciated right now. One of the things I view about the Sublime Archangel as being just so amazing is that you can drop it in play and then have anything be a huge monster. I mean, you're a deck that's going to put your creatures out, and there aren't very many people that punish you for that. Anthony Eason's deck is able to.
Eason is kept on 3.
3 cards.
3 cards, all right.
How lucky.
Best I've ever seen is I've seen a limited PTQ. I've seen a player, actually I've heard of a player winning on a Mold of 2. That's the best I've ever heard of, though. Cool Golem token for Jacob Baugh.
Say that again?
I said cool. The best I've ever heard of winning would be a Mold of 2. I've seen a win on that, but... Alright, well anyway, see. Anthony Eason is... The key to winning on Mulls to 3 is to hitting your land drops, and Anthony Eason is doing that.
So one of the things I think is really funny here, we look at the Blade Splicer, Avacyn's Pilgrim, the Golem, and then a Borderland Ranger. I love Borderland Ranger right now. If we look at Anthony Eason's land there, he's got all of the same art. I believe that's revised. And there's a cavern naming, I'm guessing, Golem. He casts a Trading Post. This is a great Mold of 3. He went to 3?
He's on 3. I mean, it's a great Mold of 3 until you realize that he's about to drop to...
Yeah, and he's dead, but I mean, wow, that was a great Mold of 3.
Yeah.
So the thing I was going to say is one thing that a Madison area guy that I know, Dan, had brought up when he saw the lands I was playing in a deck was, wow, you know what you're doing here? You're telling everyone you've been playing for a long time. And I'm like, what? And he's like, and you're telling them you're cheap. And so Anthony Eason's land as this revised land, for anyone that doesn't know that he's the runner-up to the U.S. National Championship, it is one of those small things where you're like, oh, you've got revised lands. You must have been playing for at least a little while.
So I love how people do land choices. It's like a big personality expression. So typically when I run, I have my own, okay, I'm going to ask you what your land, first of all, why don't we go and start, what do you do for your basic lands?
My basic lands, I've got 5 favorite basic lands, and they're all specific lands. One, the swamp is the Cabal Swamp. It's like the, I believe, Odyssey land with all of the guys in robes in the swamp.
Okay.
The mountain is the fake snow-covered mountain from Ice Age. It's not.
Right. It's not actually snow covered.
It's not actually snow-covered, but it's got snow all over it. The forest is the smoky John Avon forest from 7th edition. The island is the Lightning Bolt Island from Urza's. And the plains is the Lightning Bolt Plains from, I forget what right now for the life of me. I believe it might be from Onslaught.
They're all old card fakes.
I guess they're all old. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like full art and all of that. So
I do have favorites. There's a Kamigawa Plains I really like. It's one where there's a sun behind clouds. Interestingly enough, okay, so I kind of have a ritual of my own basic land rituals. What I do is, okay, it's kind of a testament to playtesting. Whenever I proxy my playtest decks, I always play I go through, maybe the card store I'm at, I go through their basic lands for some common lands. And they're usually beat up and they're white bordered or from whatever set. And I'll shuffle them unsleeved with a Sharpie on all the cards. But don't actually have to make the deck for Approach River. I'll keep all the lands that were in the last version of my playtest deck and just sleeve them up. So be like, why are you sleeving up lands that are just beat and they're white bordered and they're just all different? I'm like, because those were the lands for the deck.
It feels good to you.
Yeah.
It's like a mental thing. So you don't then use the same art? You use whatever.
No, they're all different.
Right.
Which some people look at me and are like, why are you using a different art? I'm like, it's not the and they'll be like, you're at a disadvantage by using different art. And I'm like, that's okay. this fraction we were talking about, I don't care about.
Well, one of my favorite Magic players is Brian Cole, and Brian was trying to find some cards for Grand Prix Minneapolis for his sideboard, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to run Naturalize. And for him, the deciding factor was that there was no Naturalize art that he liked. And he said, every time I draw this Naturalize, I'm going to look at it and just kind of grimace. I'd rather just look at a Beast Within, because I like the art on that. So let's not have Naturalize, let's use Beast Within.
I like that.
Now, the funny thing about that is that, obviously, that's not necessarily real strategy in any kind of true sense of the word. But I do think there is something to be said about feeling good mentally about what you've got in front of you. Like feeling good mentally about, just being in the right place. I mean, one of the reasons people do mind games during Magic, mind games usually don't do much for the most part because the effort you take distracts you from your own play. And also a lot of people are kind of immune to it.
Well, I don't get so say all my lands being really weird, right? I don't get distracted by it. I've been playing with them the whole time. But maybe my opponent will look at them and say, why is Matthias playing all these terrible lands? If you're thinking about that, then you're not thinking about the game. So maybe, it's probably fine.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people, but the thing is, the idea that they're trying to do is they're trying to get you out of your comfort zone, right?
Yes.
And if they can do that, they hope to get some small percentage. So I can understand feeling comfortable with something. Choosing your land from playtesting and, having that be something that makes you feel comfortable. Or me choosing my favorite art and having that be something that makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So, looking at these sideboards, you point out something to me that's really interesting. Ground Seal ×4.
Full
Is
play
that
set.
like an answer to Snapcaster or Unburial Rites?
So how exactly does Ground Seal read?
Ground Seal, it's very simple. It's comes into play, draw a card, target player, their graveyard cannot be targeted, and cards in their graveyard cannot be targeted. Yeah, 2 mana. And there's a swamp from Anthony Eason. So you can't target cards in that graveyard. You can cast things in that graveyard. You just can't target things in that graveyard.
It might be one of those, it's a pretty low investment answer to some powerful answer to some things. That's Buried Ruin out of Anthony Eason, by the way.
There we go.
Remember that his deck is primarily artifacts.
Turn 2 off of a Avacyn's Pilgrim, a 2-life, that is a pod, birthing pod.
Right, it's going to be very good for...
That is the scariest play
Baugh.
for a control deck, is a turn 2 birthing pod. And Anthony Eason playing mono black, his only answers to that are either cards like Ratchet Bomb or just blowing up the world so many times that there's nothing left on the table.
Right, and especially Jacob Baugh with this. This is where Thragtusk may be pretty good. There's a lot. He has a lot of ways to just continue to get value off this birthing pod. We see Zenith for 1 out of Eason to get rid of the Pilgrim, which means you can't pot into Stranglerootgeist.
A 3rd land. I see a Blade Splicer in Jacob's hand, and there it is.
That's going to come down. So at 4, he has access to Metamorph, Hellrider, Restoration Angel, and Huntmaster. Jacob almost certain.
Oh, look at that. A Cavern of Souls. Only 2 black mana for Anthony Eason, which means, or sorry, 2 swamps, I should say. There's a Solemn Simulacrum. He's going to have to wait a full turn to cast a Mutilate if he even has one.
Right. Mutilate to be free, your cavern is on Worm, because Anthony does have the Worm Coil Engine. Mutilate, remember, Jacob Baugh, despite having white creatures, does not have a Plains in place, and Mutilate is not free.
I don't like, okay, this is really, really corner case. I don't like Anthony naming Worm here. He actually gains no value from Cavern of Souls versus this opponent. And I would rather name something that might intimidate my opponent into not doing things.
I
might name
Praetor.
Something that might make Jacob change his way of playing.
Mirror. I don't know.
Jacob is human. Human actually matters for Jacob since his colors are so specific. It can actually make a difference for Jacob.
If you want to name the scariest thing here for him, what would you name then?
Well, it depends on what I want to manipulate him into doing, right?
Well, Worm, he might be worried about Massacre Worm.
That's fair. That's fair. Maybe there is utility in that naming. I know that one of the things I did with people is in our playtest group with Cavern, making sure that if you don't need the mana and you don't need the uncounterability, figuring out what cards you should name to bluff with is actually real.
Right. I've done this in draft. When I've drafted a Cavern of Souls, I oftentimes will name cards, I'll think about my mana, I'll name cards that, I remember it's like I had a red-white deck and I had 2 plains, 2 mountains in play, and I could actually cast everything off that, so I played Cavern and named Avatar. So they're like, oh, is he gonna play that 7/7 for 7? I'm like, no, I don't have that, but I could.
And the thing about it is you don't want to work too hard to try to do such things, because the returns are very small, but honestly, if you've got time to think about it before the event, it's not going to hurt you, and it could help you.
Right.
But I mean, the returns are very, very, very small.
So he's going to pod that Blade Splicer into a Hell Rider.
Hell Rider is very good. What else we got?
His life total. Remember, there is a Worm Coil Engine coming down.
Boom.
Birds of Paradise. Yeah. Anthony Eason will
take 2, then 3. 2 from the Hell Rider's trigger, and then 3 from the unblocked Golem from Jacob Baugh.
Remember, Eason's going to have to essentially exhaust Jacob's hand of things.
Worm Coil Engine is in hand there, looks like. Is that a Batterskull as well?
Batterskull, Precursor Golem, Worm Coil Engine, I believe.
I mean, the thing he might be thinking about here is the real possibility of one of the best cards for red, Zealous Conscripts, and what it means to drop a card. Does that mean he dies? Precursor Golem.
That's why Golem, I think, is a much safer play than a Worm Coil. There's no spell. I mean, Jacob Baugh has 4 Bonfire of the Damned. I don't know if he's kept them all in, actually. It's a pretty weak card here. And the conscripts would only steal 1 part of the golem. So, yeah, three golems to block from Anthony Eason. A Precursor I really like in this situation.
Now, the funny thing is, let's pretend that Jacob did have something. If he had something, it would also target Jacob's own Precursor Golem. Just a small, funny little thing. Or not Jacob's own, not Precursor Golem, Jacob's own Blade Spliced Golem.
Yeah. Another Cavern out of Jacob. This one's on Angel, presumably of the Restoration variety.
And Jacob does have an Angel in his hand. What does that do? Oh yeah, if I target it with my Ancient Grudge, it blows up my Golem.
It would blow up his own Golem if he grudges. So he's going to swing for 3 more damage, putting Eason down to 12. And then he's going to grudge the Precursor Golem.
There we go.
And he did have, remember, there's a 1 of 2 Ancient Grudges out of the board.
I love weird little strange interactions like that.
Yeah. And then dealing 3 more to Eason, so he's going to go to 12. Drops Eason to 12. Pods away the bird.
Strangleroot, guys? Nope. Thalia. That's not bad. Anthony here would love to see a sweep spell. He does have a Batterskull. He does have a... I think he has a Worm Coil Engine. I thought I saw
he
one.
has a Worm Coil Engine.
But I mean,
he can't be a second Precursor, like I said before, because he doesn't actually have a second Precursor.
Yeah,
so.
and he's worried, though, about 1 Zealous Conscript taking
you
things
have
away.
You have to assume it.
There's a birthing pod right there.
And a Hell Rider, so you have to... It's assumed that there's a Conscripts.
Yeah, I mean, well, he should be worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst would be that the Conscripts is in hand, because then he's just dead. Or, Thundermaw Hellkite's pretty real here, too, actually.
And
I think
Anthony is just going to die.
All right. Yeah, Jacob.
Well, he might not actually kill him, though, unless he has the...
gut shot.
some final way to finish him off.
It's going to Restoration Angel the Hell Rider.
And then turn the Angel into the Conscript for the win. There we are.
Yep.
So unless Anthony Eason has a tragic slip, which is not in his deck list, that's it.
All right, next game, Jacob Baugh defeats Anthony Eason 2-0.
Now, it was unfortunate for Anthony and for us, really, as spectators,
game one
to
there.
not really get a chance to even see, what Anthony's deck can do.
Sam Black, goes home, of many different fames, Madison-based player, member of the World Championship team a few years ago, top 8 at Atlanta just a couple weeks ago.
His deck for that event was just awesome.
All right, turn 1, Birds of Paradise from Brian Higgins. Sam will ponder off a Seachrome Coast. So remember, his deck still plays a lot of the same cards that regular Delver decks do play. It has Ponder, Jataxian Probe, Thought Scour, Mana Leak, Vapor Snag, with the full set of Snapcasters.
Brian Higgins is a former Tennessee state champion, and he was a ramp player then, so he's sticking with those colors, red-green, but in this case, very different, going with the aggressive deck rather than a ramp Valakut deck.
And Sam does find his one gut shot.
That is so Sam Black.
He has a second one in his board, and so we'll say one of his 2 gut shots. Alright. And then I'll pass it back. So, but Higgins, Strangle guys, if Higgins knows Sam's not on Delver, against Delver, this would be a pretty strong opening. But Sam's probably a little better positioned here.
One of the things that can be difficult if you don't really know players themselves, when you see a deck like what Sam Black is playing, it is very possible you won't see the elements of the deck that make it a mid-range deck, and you could very easily miss sideboard pretty heavily.
Right.
Sam Black here on the right, trademark key and leather
yes.
and leather necklace.
And we'll see him attempt to Rancor up to the Stranglegeist, and he's going to snap a gut shot at it. That'll counter the Rancor.
And a 3-2 still something that can be stopped by a 2-1.
Sam will likely just trade them.
Yeah, that was awesome for Sam. That was like as ideal as it could get for Sam.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure if I would have attacked there. I might have just let the 3-2 and the 2-1 face off.
Yeah, so that second gut shot puts Sam, I believe, at 16. So he caverns a human, and he'll just snap a Ponder. And once again, with these blue-white style decks, I would say one of the tricks to playing them really well is to draw a lot of Snapcaster Mages. The card's just so good in them.
Okay.
Okay, now Sam took a hit from Stranglegeist. He's at 14.
Sam Black pondering with a fishy ponder off of his Snapcaster Mage. Sideboard-wise, I believe I see a Timely Reinforcements in Sam's hand, but I'm not 100% sure. That is from his sideboard. You're right that he has the Gut Shot in his sideboard. I'm sure he did bring that in.
Right, so another Stranglegeist out of Higgins. These cards are very good in the matchup.
Sam blocks, happy to block. Brian brings back his Geist, 3-2 sitting out there. Very quickly to be outclassed by any number of things. I expect that Sam might cast a Timely Reinforcements here. Or he could just wait if he wants to try to be greedy a little bit. Sam has been known to be greedy. He has actually a Restoration Angel in hand, so ponder.
A lot of white mana out of Sam. That's got rather unique for his deck, I believe.
He only has 4 planes. One thing to note is that even a second plains is often a sign that you're not facing a traditional Delver deck of any kind.
Yeah, most Delver decks run one plains.
Yeah.
In them. So second plains should be a key that something's up.
If you are a scholar of deck lists and you want to have this influence your tournament play, make sure you check out people's land mix. Don't just look at the spells, because sometimes you can discover, oh gee, there's a lot more information here than I realized.
Yeah, I mean, you could still think maybe he's on a... You could still maybe put him on Delver and say maybe he just likes two planes, but anyone who's played Delver knows that planes are terrible in Delver.
Timely. Particularly if you've got Cavern and then Moorland Haunt, you just start ending up being unable to do things like Snapcaster or Flash Ponder.
Yeah. So timely from Sam brings him back up to 20.
We got some soldier art from Star City Games, it looks like.
Alright, so over on Brian's side...
20 to 20, that has to feel so terrible.
For an aggro player, it's not good at all.
I mean, I'm sure Sam feels great.
Yeah. But he's got a bonfire for them, so he's going to crack Sam back down to 16 and has cleared off the board. More. Okay,
that was awesome for him.
Yeah,
Go to 14, I'll undo your turn.
Yeah. Well, only took 2 cards.
Well, I mean, one sticks around.
One sticks around, so... Sam's probably not too phased by that.
Oh, no, he's got an angel in his hand. Maybe... okay, a Splicer. Splicer the card.
Excellent against the Strangleroot guys.
Yeah, excellent against the entire deck that Brian Higgins is playing.
Right. So the blue-white mid-range deck really has gone a good distance in making this a good matchup for the blue-white player.
In Brian Higgins' deck list, one card he has written down is Wolfie, not Wolfer, Wolfie Silverheart. Or does it actually just a weird R?
Just a weird R.
Okay, he's made his R's differently, but I was really appreciating the idea of it being Wolfie.
I like Wolfie's, yeah, Wolfie Silverheart.
One thing we see here in Brian Higgins' list, 4 Borderland Rangers. Good job, Brian Higgins.
Yeah. One of the worries I have out of Higgins' list is that he doesn't have that many business cards in it. With only 2 swords in here, and only 3 Zeniths, he does have the potential to just not draw enough cards that matter. Because, right now, Sam making Gideon's going to hide behind this wall of Blade Splicer. Really, a lot of pressure on Higgins now to not...
This is a rough moment.
Going to suicide himself if he can't do anything about it.
And goodbye. Blink.
Yeah, that's...
So one of the things that is a goal for relevance is to have Rancor turn everything into relevant, but that can get outclassed pretty quickly. No gut shot from Sam Black to stop this Rancor getting back on the bird. However, Gideon can just murder it.
Gideon can just take the damage every time. But no, Gideon's going to murder it, keep him off the lands. And yeah, Sam putting the game away here.
Still in hand, a Day of Judgment and a Restoration Angel.
Yeah. Probably won't make the Restoration Angel, even though it's a strong player, just because there's no need. I mean, if Higgins taps out,
you don't realize how greedy Sam is. He's gonna play it.
Okay.
I'm wrong. Darn it.
It's not the right play.
I've just seen so much greed from Sam. Maybe that's a playtesting thing. When you playtest with Sam, you can see certain things happen that maybe you don't otherwise.
Superman the Gideon. Now we're racing. We're racing because Restoration Angel makes it very hard to lose a race.
Oh.
And it's a miracle. There's no way for Restoration Angel to get around this. That's going to be quite the miracle.
Dead creatures.
3
In
to...
comes the elf.
Question is, it's 3 to Gideon, it looks like.
Do I mistake? Does he not have an angel in his hand? I thought I saw one.
Higgins did not attack the Gideon.
Block?
Because he had to stay back to block, unfortunately.
I think there's an angel there.
It doesn't matter if there is. Yeah, that's... no, it's a Divine Offering, I believe. And another miracle.
Oh, to Gideon again. I think that might get rid of Gideon. Okay, he's just like, that's it. Not enough to get rid of the Gideon. Oh, he was going to the dome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, first
That might have been a little ambitious.
So 2-0 for Sam Black. I mean, it's hard to think that you'll miracle 2 bonfires out in a row. Even so, I believe Sam had a divine offering as that last card. Yeah, it was offering Day Day.
It was offering. It was not a get. Or
I think
not
it was
an angel.
offering, not an angel.
Oh.